Hello, friends. David here, and I am back once again for the PPL D2 Power Rankings for Week 4. Well, again, no Bird this week. Bird should be joining me next week for Week 5, but he was still on his break and doing whatever. So, without further ado, let us jump right into our number 12 this week. The Nidoqueen Park Rangers, coached by Raikkonen. He played Liam and the West Chan United. And I don't know, Rai's been, this game especially, it was just a lot of over predicting. Oh, I don't know what to say. He over predicted way too much around Liam's moves, and Liam just played a normal standard game, didn't really make any huge plays, and Rai just kind of outplayed himself. He over, I don't know, man. It's hard. He threw away his electric immunity really early, which basically let Evire win at the end, like guaranteed. It made it super easy for him to win. But the Celesteela couldn't really touch anything. It just kind of sat there and was really passive. And then a lot of over predictions with Azelf and like Blastoise ended up losing him both of those Pokemon basically. He almost lost his Azelf to the Seismitoad, but like a lucky flinch saved him from that. It was just a lot of over predicting, and I think Rai needs to like chill with the predictions, and like he brings like this bulky team. He doesn't have to make these huge plays or huge predictions throughout the game to get an advantage. His team just kind of can naturally do that. He just has to kind of let it, I think. And that was just sort of my take from watching that game. It was kind of rough. But anyway, he is unfortunately 0-4, and I can only hope that he gets a win next week, because I don't like winless teams. Up next, we have Richie and the Liverwurmple FC. He dropped a few spots from 7, but that was because a lot of the people below him won, and his play this week was kind of iffy. He played Kyle, and Kyle played a phenomenal game. I'm not going to take that away, but like Richie, the lack of coverage for Arrow on his Torn really set him back, because Arrow came in every time and Torn just U-turned away. And it wasn't actually doing any damage between the drop kicks and the fact that Aerodactyl was super bulky this week. I think if Torn had something like Icy Wind to sort of help him deal with like faster threats, like a Scarf Keldeo or an Aerodactyl in general, or like a Scarf Victini, if he packed something like Icy Wind, I didn't get to see his side of the battle. I don't know the 4 move slots he brought. I know there was a U-turn, and I know there was a Dark Pulse, and that was pretty much it. But yeah, it was a lot of Kyle playing really well, and Richie kind of like falling apart. The helmet defensive Bulu was kind of cool, but didn't get to do anything because he was prepared. I don't even know what half the sets were, if I'm gonna be, because I didn't get to see his side. So yeah, that's all I could really say about that. I think I don't think anything was particularly bad. I just what he brought couldn't do anything to what Kyle brought, and that was a problem. And hopefully he picks up next week. I don't know who he's against off the top of my head. But moving on, we have probably the most entertaining match. Ellie and the Accrington Stantler against the New Crustal United. And this was a meme match. This was absolutely ridiculous on both sides. Skarmory with Shed Shell, predicting the Magnemite. Ellie bringing Scarf Magnemite and Scarf Meteor Mash Clefable, which was hilarious. SD Power Skullbash Excadrill is really funny, and I don't know if that was necessarily the best play, but you know, here we are. Uh, the Super Fang miss on Crobat with Crobat onto the Kyurem Black really put things in a bad footing for Ellie, because then the Kyurem would have been at 1% at the pivotal moment, and then Clef could have stayed in and went for a Scarf T-Bolt, knowing that it would do 1%. And instead of sacking off the drill, which she ended up doing, it's just loads of not fun for that situation. Both fairies being scarfed is actually very entertaining. Both fairies getting multiple kills while being scarfed is even more entertaining. The big misplays, aside from the missings, I guess, is one, Ellie got out-memed by Scarflurgis, and two, Ellie messed up by revealing that both of her mons were scarfed already. Like, just the way she played it out. She showed Chi that Magnemite was scarfed and that Clefable was scarfed super early in the game, when it could have been a really good, useful, like, lore. Like, Ellie thought she had the game right at the end, and then all of a sudden Florges was scarfed, and then she was thrown off the back foot. Sorry about that. When it could have been the exact opposite, where Chi could have thought he had the game with his Scarf Florges, and then all of a sudden Scarf Magnemite out of nowhere, or something, or like, yeah, it was just revealing both scarves super early just kind of put her on the back foot, because she showed off both her memes, and then the rest were kind of semi-standard. So, like, there was no surprises left. Like, she knew what to do, he knew how to play his game, and he saved his surprise till the very end. And unfortunately, Ellie didn't do the same. So, Ellie lost, but it wasn't a huge loss. It came down to getting out-memed, so there we are. Right up above her is the Birmingham Spritzy, who were super low on the power rankings at 11th, just due to how the rankings were sort of progressing, but they picked up a good win against Aston Kai. He could have gotten his rocks up against Pharaoh, but instead decided to try and play that 50-50 and go for and try to attack, I believe. I feel like he could have chosen to get up rocks instead of playing that game. He boldly U-turns in front of a potentially Scarf Mew. He a lot of interesting plays, but overall, I think Onesie played it extremely well in setting up for a Coco sweep, which ended up basically happening, where Coco would come in, get a kill, and then switch out, then come back in, get a kill, switch out, and so on and so forth. And Aston Kai just couldn't really deal with it. Critting the Grand Ball ended up hurting him a lot, and I thought that was really funny. But overall, he made a couple of like really aggressive plays that worked out nicely for him. Onesie, that is. And then Coco just cleaned up, and good job. Yeah. If he keeps this up, he'll move up, of course, and yeah, there was a really solid game. It was one of the more solid games. There wasn't really a huge amount of hacks one way or the other. And overall, a good game. Up next is the Parasect Germain against the Chicago Bewares, and Carson gets 6-0'd again. And it's a little rough for Carson. He got out-memed, much like Ellie. Eviolite Stuffle did nothing, unfortunately. But Shroom brought like some really cool sets, and they all ended up doing really well. Like, the turn 1 play was just the most casual HP fire ever, and Carson just threw away his Scizor. I get what Carson was doing, and he got a really good aggressive play, but Shroom just happened to click HP fire just on a whim, and he ended up netting a free kill, setting up a 6v5, and then just couldn't do anything about it. It was really good reads on Carson's sets. Like, Shroom really figured out what was scarfed, what was this, what was that, really quickly in the match. And a good preservation of the 6-0 was useful because Shroom really needs it. He's a little behind. That was his first win, and he needs to really pick it up if he wants to make it to the top. So, stockpile charge beam baton pass is really cool on Mawile. I'm glad Mawile's seeing some interesting play like that. But moving on, we have the AS Rowlets. We're coming back to Eric. The crit was really cool on the Gramble one. Gramble with counter was really entertaining, to say the least. Spadef Bulldoze Ferrothorn was something. I don't know if it was correct, but it was something. I think it would have ended up working if he didn't throw it away so quickly. DD on his Zygarde 10 didn't feel right. He didn't really have a team that sort of let him get a DD up, and I don't think Onesie was ever gonna let him get a DD up. And it's just, I don't know what the Zygarde was planning to dance in front of, but it clearly didn't work because he never got the chance to, and he just wasn't really in control of that match because of the Scarf Coco. He kept talking about expecting moves throughout that match, and then he didn't act on them. Whereas Onesie just made bold plays throughout the entire match. Eric talked about expecting these sort of turns to happen and what he could have done, but then in the match he didn't end up doing them, and I think he needs to play more aggressively on that front in order to really get those opportunities. Maybe he could have gotten the DD up with Zygarde 10 if he made more aggressive doubles and aggressive switches like he wanted to, and how he was saying it in the post-com. But what ended up happening was he gets overly pressured by the Tapu Koko and the Landorus and ends up falling super far behind to actually a really narrow 1-0, but still. Just more aggression, whereas I was telling Rai to play less aggressive. Maybe Eric should play a bit more. And that. Carson up here at number 6. Second 6-0 in a row is really going to bring you down a bit, but you're not last and you're still doing quite well. It's just you had a hard time reading what Shroom brought, which is understandable. Like, the only thing you could have really expected was maybe Sash Mamo and 4-attack Zangoose, but the rest, maybe HP Fire was kind of expected. I know you predicted rocks, but maybe that was a little bit too much. Just a really poor reading of sets throughout the entire match from Carson, and I hope he picks up in the next week and in the coming weeks, of course, because Stuffle's my favorite Pokemon and he just picked it up, so I want to see it do stuff. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say about that game. I kind of covered it with Shroom. Shroom played it super well, Carson kind of didn't, and here we are. But speaking of players who played it well, we have our number 5, Kyle, K to the 2, who brought a really cool team with things like Life Orb Keldeo and Bulky Arrow, Recycle Klefki, and Calm Mind Cancer Blissey, and a lot of memes this week. Overall, just a ton of really quality memes, and a lot of them ended up working out. But yeah, Cancer Blissey didn't even have to hit the field, even though it won 100%. Klefki didn't really have to hit the field either. Victini didn't have to hit the field much. It was just Keldeo, Serena, and Arrow putting in a ton of work. Serena showing off her stuff and why it's such a useful Pokemon, and really justifying why so many people pick it early. A lot of people love Serena in draft, and this game really shows how well it could really perform in the format. It was really good Serena play, it was good bulky arrow play, beating the mismag 1v1 even though it was Sash Bond, Keldeo just being a whole buttload of ow. It's just so much ow. Just everywhere. But yeah, Kyle played it super well. He read Richie's plays really well, and he just got a really straightforward, really easy W. And props to him. So, on this train of winning, we have the New Crustle United. Chi just won with a Scarf Lurgis. It was actually surprisingly close considering how many memes Ellie brought and how many normal sets G did. The double wisp that Delphox ended up going for ended up really saving his life, because if that Clefable wasn't burned, then like Scarf Meteor Mash would have done a ton of damage. She could have brought it in on the Kyurem, and instead of going for Moonblast, went for a Meteor Mash, booped the Kyurem in the face, potentially got the attack boost, and with the attack boost and the fact that the Florist was not even remotely defensive, could have possibly just killed it flat out at +1, but who knows. A couple lucky dodges with like the Super Fang dodge on the Kyurem, which helped save the Kyurem's life, double wisp landing and helping a lot on that front. But overall, she played it super well, and he's up at 4th because he played it super well. Yeah, all there is to it. He played it well and he won. So yeah, I'm trying to think of anything in particular. No, I think it was a good read on bringing Shed Shell. Like, Magnemite ended up coming. He saw that Magnemite was picked up, and immediately signals went off that this is probably for me. So good call on that. Up at 3rd, we have the Portland Timbers RTK, who ended up losing because of a pretty big misplay. It was a really straightforward game between Jim and RTK, and ultimately it came down to there was a Zygarde in RTK's face, and instead of firing off a HP Ice, he decides to switch out. He wasn't Zap late. He decided to continue pretending that he was choiced in some way. He went for the Shadow Ball, predicting the Jirachi, and whether that play went through or not, he said he wanted to cancel, and he canceled from HP Ice and clicked Shadow Ball instead. Even if that play went through and he Shadow Balled on the Zygarde coming in, I think the correct play was just to HP Ice again, to not let it set up in your face. And what ended up happening is he set up in his face, and then the Urkanine came in, HP Iced, and then it was lots of scary. He ended up losing like so many mons to the Zygarde, when if he just sacrificed his Raikou for the good of getting some HP Ice damage on it, things would have been a lot easier to deal with. Raikou almost ended up bringing it back. That was really cool. Had the Drapion not had a good move to hit the Raikou or any other sort of small circumstances, Raikou might have won the game, but it was just a 1v5 for the poor little Raikou, and yeah, it just wasn't going to cut it. But RTK didn't really play it badly. It was just that kind of one turn that kind of threw everything else out the window. But speaking of good play, we have Liam and the West Cham United, who brought a bunch of cool sets like AV Flame Charge Heatran, the Shardless Weavile, which I think is fine considering Rai's team and how he tends to bring it. Endure Lychee Hitmonlee, which didn't get to see the field, and a Seismitoad that did a lot more work than it probably should have. There's just a lot of really surprising work. It was more of Raikkonen outplaying himself, and then Heatran coming in and cleaning the game from there. Not really a lot. It's just good reads. A couple really questionable thing. I don't know if this is just Liam reading into Raikkonen or if Liam just didn't do any research, but leaving in both Seismitoad and Heatran on Celesteela when Celesteela gets not only very good grass coverage in form of Giga Drain and Energy Ball, but also gets Earthquake. That could really hurt both of those mons very, very hard. And Liam just pretended those moves didn't exist, and it ended up working out for him because they didn't. Those moves just didn't exist. So, good on Liam. Whether that was a read on Raikkonen or just not knowing, good on him. And last, but certainly not least, because he's number one, is Potato Jim. Fun stuff. Weakness Policy Zygarde meme worked. Super straightforward game. Just Zygarde did a thing. It did a lot of damage, and I think overall Miltank and Zygarde just putting in a ton of work and really Miltank a lot actually, just showing how good it is. It's been a real MVP so far in like every game, and this game was no different. FizzDef tanking Kartana hits and just all this good stuff. Zygarde just getting 4 kills because RTK decided to pretend to still be choiced. So yeah, that's the whole week. Kind of a mishmash. A lot of memes this week. A lot of fun teams, fun sets. And next week should be really fun. A lot of good games coming up. I know Kyle's on a bit of a tear and he plays Jim, if I'm not mistaken. So that one should be good. Yeah, overall, that would be week 4. Next week, Bird will be joining me. And I will catch you all next time. Peace.